guys, welcome to the Built by Vitality podcast. My name is Steve Pinkerton. I'm sitting next to
Philip Lewis.
And we have the biggest guest of the show we've had. And I mean, we're probably in episode 30-something.
Yeah.
And Roland Mitchell is by far, see, some people get nervous going to meet like professional athletes.
Yeah.
I never got that. But when you talk to someone that has managed something so successfully, I love that entrepreneurial background that Roland has. I think that everybody listening can learn something from the journey that he's been on. And I'm pumped because Roland is the owner-operator of 2 Chick-Fil-A's, and one is here we're sitting at in Afton, and the other one is in the Concord Mills. So there are 1,000 things we're going to talk about. A couple, just for those that, like me, I quickly realized I was one of the only people in the world that didn't know much about Chick-fil-A as of like 2 years ago. And then people would look at me, Roland, and when I say, "Oh, I've never eaten a Chick-fil-A," and it was like,
what?
The craziest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And you
so
guys
there
are
is somebody that's never eaten at Chick-fil-A. That's crazy.
Yes. But as of not anymore. Now I'm good. But you're in every state except Alaska, Hawaii, and Vermont. So Philip and I are already planning an escapade to Vermont because we think we can corner the market.
I think we could.
It's one of the most competitive franchise models in the country. Something like 55 to 60,000 applicants apply to be a franchisee every year, and they choose. I looked at, and they said they choose 75 to 80 of those.
That's an accurate number.
Sound about right? It's voted the most polite chain in 2016, which that was my first experience with Chick-fil-A. When I drove through here, it was actually this store maybe 2 years ago, 3 years with my kids. I was blown away at how nice people were.
Yeah.
So being able to talk through the hiring process, being able to talk through how Roland does his training is very intriguing to me. Even more so is no matter when you drive by this location, it doesn't matter what time it is, there's cars wrapped around this place. And now he's 100% drive-through service. So seeing the transformation and what that project looked like and making that switch is very interesting to me. So with that, Roland, thank you so much for letting us come by and steal you away for 40 minutes because I imagine you're a busy guy. Will you talk us through just your background and how you got involved in Chick-fil-A?
Sure. Right out of college, I started working for the Waffle House. And I was managing 35 locations in the North and South Carolina market. I was working 365, probably 100 hours a week. And my wife, Angela, looked at me. She was carrying my oldest son, Tyler, and my middle son, Coleman, in her arms. And she just looked at me one day and she just said, "It's either us or the Waffle House."
That's
a tough decision. I like
so
Waffle
my heart stopped, and I'm like, okay, I need to do something. So my dad was traveling through Atlanta, 25 years ago or so, and he stopped at this chicken restaurant in downtown Atlanta, and he thought to himself, my son needs to manage one of these places. So he called Chick-fil-A to have them send me a application, and the thing showed up on my front porch one day, and I'm like, what the heck is Chick-fil-A? Yeah. I mean, I remember going to Chick-fil-A when I was in college, and they used to give out these free samples, and I would walk around the mall about 100 times and get my lunch. Finally, the lady said, "Son, you're going to have to buy something." So I remember the Chick-fil-A a little bit. Chick-fil-A, 25 years ago, wasn't as popular as it is today. And I went through 17 interviews in 3 years, and they gave me the opportunity to operate my first location at Concord Mills.
And what year was that?
2001.
2001. And then how soon after did Afton come?
Yeah, so Afton's 13 years, so this month, so 7 years later.
Wow. Okay. What the franchise model to me was so interesting because I'm reading this and trying to figure out why am I not leaving the gym to open up a Chick-fil-A as I'm reading this?
We should actually be in Vermont right now.
Yeah, we actually would have cut this interview short. Because it's obviously a huge vetting process,
Right.
but the investment is $10,000.
It is.
And then can you walk us through, because it talks about them paying for the construction, the equipment. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique situation here. So I split everything 50-50 with Chick-Fil-A.
Okay.
So yeah, they pay for the construction. All the equipment you see, I rent from Chick-fil-A or lease from them. But really, at the end of the day, I split down the middle with Chick-fil-A 50-50 for a $10,000 investment.
Wow. Wow.
So they can be pretty selective on who they allow operate their locations. So I was talking to my daughter-in-law's father, and he was having concerns about his daughter marrying my son. Just normal concerns. And
Sure.
I'm like, I can promise you that if my son went through the selection process to become a Chick-fil-A operator, he's gone through the ringer. So he's legit. He's good.
Now, 13 to 16 years ago, it was a 3-year process for you to get selected.
Yeah.
Is that par for the course?
So Chick-fil-A does their homework on every operator. So they do take a lot of time, and they invest a lot of money in the application process and interview process.
What do you think as you're going through this process, what do you think they're looking for? Is it the entrepreneurial mindset? Is it what characteristics do you think made you stand out among thousands of applicants?
So for me, it was my background with Waffle House. I had an amazing 10-year run with Waffle House. Character is a big characteristic that they look for, and that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
They're looking for somebody who's self-sufficient leader, doesn't need big brother watching over them. I think that's really it.
What I love is that you guys have stuck so strongly in your roots of we're not open on Sundays.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who get pushback from that. Even more so, you look at it from a financial perspective, and I don't know anything about fast food chains, but I would guess that Sundays could potentially be a very lucrative day for a place like Chick-fil-A.
Absolutely, but our Mondays are really busy. Yeah. You come up to a Chick-fil-A on a Sunday, you'd be amazed at how many cars actually come through our drive-through.
Yeah, I know. It's been me when I first started coming. Yeah. I was like, we'll stop by Chick-fil-A, because my kids were young enough to not be able to remind me what day of the week it was, and I'd get up and I'd drive through and be like, that's Sunday.
Yeah.
Got it.
I think it's part of their marketing plan. They're like, people are really going to crave this on Sunday. They'll be here on Monday.
But think about this, what restaurant chain is not open 7 days a week? And it lets us attract better people because they know they're going to get Sunday off. When I was at Waffle House, I didn't have a Sunday off. I didn't have a Saturday off. I worked 7 days
That's
a week.
Good point.
They're 24 hours, right?
They're 24/7, 365. And, just knowing that you have that one day off to rest your body and rest your mind. And if you choose to worship the way you want to, you have that day to do so.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we attract those employees,
Now, if we talk about going from 1 to 2 stores, when that happened, it's not very common. It wasn't very common when you first did it. From talking to you before we got on air, it seems like it's a little more prevalent now, still rare. How was that transition going from 1 to 2 for you? Was that a challenge?
It was kind of like, so when I was talking to Chick-fil-A about the opportunity to double my organization, they asked me, so how are you going to replicate what you're doing at your first location? How are you going to do that in the second one? Because we're really interested to hear what you have to say. I said, it's kind of like having that second child. So that first child, you're like, man, this is great. I can't believe that I'm going to be able to spread my love to the next child. But, amazingly, you have that second child, and it just, that switch goes on. And it's like, so how did they wanted to know, how was I going to replicate what I was doing at Concord Mills at Afton? And I'm like, it's people. It's relationship. Mm-hmm. It's holding people accountable. It's hiring the best people possible. It's treating everyone that I come in contact with honor, dignity, and respect. You know, our mission is to be the most caring company in Cabarrus County. Chick-fil-A's mission is to be the most caring company in the world. And, you know, it starts with the operator. And then it goes on to, you know, our employees, our team members, and our directors and our leadership. And it's just, you know, we want to serve those. And I serve my people or my team just like I do my guests, you know, with honor, dignity, and respect every day, all day, every day.
Yeah. I look at a franchise and I think of Chick-fil-A and I say, okay, after 4 or 5 years, obviously it never becomes autopilot, but I would imagine that you got to a point where you kind of could anticipate what was going to happen, that you kind of had your metrics to what the flow was going to be for your sales, and then all of a sudden March of 2020 hits and it's like you're back to square one. What was that initial month when the shutdown started to happen? How did that instantly affect Chick-fil-A and your stores?
So when your revenue is, you know, 50% of your revenue is gone, you know, that first couple days you're scratching your head going, okay, what are we going to do?
Because you were you shut the inside doors.
Yeah,
that was the first step.
We shut our doors, and everything was through drive-through.
But drive-through was okay. Right. Drive-through was open.
So we had to realize, or it was a quick realization, that we went from 55% of our business going into the pandemic through our window. It's a little 3-foot by 3-foot window. How in the world are we going to go from 55% of our business to 100% of our business? And we had to get really creative.
How long did it take before you started to kind of make up the difference and say, okay, you know what, I've got this figured out? Was the learning curve a month, 2 months? What was that learning curve like?
I would say it was definitely a couple months. We were constantly fine-tuning our traffic flow. How many folks did we have outside? You know, we had to have like hand washing stations and sanitized stations and social distancing and masks. I mean, can you imagine going outside when it's almost 100 degrees and wearing a mask? I mean, we had to be creative. We had to like have, instead of being out there for 30 minutes, we'd change it to 15 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time. We had to really think through. And, you know, my thing has always been inspecting what you expect.
Yeah.
And, you know, when the lines aren't moving, guests aren't going to come back. So
Yeah.
we had to really reinvent every day.
Yeah.
And I think what it was is just having that sense of urgency, holding our team accountable, and listening to our guests, our customers. They let us know pretty quickly, you know, hey, you're doing a great job, which is awesome. But when they're telling us we're not doing such a good job, we listen to that and we're like, okay, well, what can we do to keep those from continuing to come in like that? So it's always trying to reinvent every day, every week, every month to be better.
I think that's one of the hardest things is when you're going through that adversity and you're going through those changes, being humble enough to, instead of using that feedback as frustration and pain points, but actually saying, okay, well, hey, I always say if one person says it, it might be an anomaly. If more than one person says it, then we're doing something wrong,
right.
You know? And it's hard because you're already stressed trying to come up with this new solution. And on top of that, you've got people that aren't happy with something. And all they're trying to do, I guess, if I look at it from their shoes, is they want to come in here and have the same experience. They don't care what you're going through. They want the same chicken sandwich and the same chicken.
Absolutely. And I tell my team almost daily, our customers are here for a chicken sandwich. They're not here to hear about what we did last night. I mean, it's great if they want to have great conversation with us, and we will, but their main objective is to get in line and get out of line and get their order correct in a very fast manner.
Yeah.
And that's our goal. Now, we do upset our neighbors because there's other businesses around us that are, you can look and see that our traffic sometimes can impede other businesses. And we try to be very mindful of that. But, our main objective is to get the customers in and out as quickly and timely and safely.
Yeah.
Without conflict.
Have you had some fender benders when you get really busy in here? Is that something
we do? We've had some fender benders. We've had some altercations, I'll say. But we try to subdue those customers with love and care.
Subdue with care.
So maybe as we wait for our Vermont location to get approved, we can be some security. We can provide a little,
we can.
Okay. Now, the hiring process, let's shift gears a little bit because we opened up a cafe inside the gym called Vitality Grind.
Right.
And the hiring process was a challenge at first, very challenging. It was trying to create, and the funny thing was, this was almost 2 years ago. I sat down and I told the first 2 people I had hired, I said, I want to be exactly like Chick-Fil-A. I want people to come into the store and almost wonder how you're being so nice. Like, is this a game? Like, I don't understand, because you come to Chick-fil-A and everyone is so friendly. Everyone always says, hey, how are you doing? I hope you have a great day. Is there anything we can do? I've never, and I've probably, I don't know, been to here 10 to 12 times. I've never had a bad experience. So it seems like it would be easy to do that. And then you try and hire people and you try and create that culture, and it takes time and it takes effort. How are you able to do that year after year after year with all these people? How do you get them on board?
Well, I liken it to just the relationship that we have with our team members, our directors, our leadership, our team is, people want to be treated well and want to be valued. And we're going to pay them a fair wage, but most people don't leave because of pay. They leave because how they're treated, and they don't feel valued and respected or whatever. So, I look around my team member base, and, there's families of kids and employees that we've had that, we've hired every single one of their kids. And, some of them stick with us through college and after college. And, it's that culture that you're talking about. And we try to really create a place where people want to work and, make it a warm, friendly environment. I mean, not every customer that comes through our drive-through is as friendly as maybe you guys, and we everybody has a story, and we talk about that. It's like we don't know what that guest has gone through before they hit our window or hit our drive-through, but we want to make sure that we treat them with honor, dignity, and respect, because we've had folks that have come through that said, I just left the hospital, my mom or my father is dying, and when I came through, Johnny was so kind, and they just made our day, even though the day was bad. So we try to do that, but not every customer is as friendly and as kind and as gentle on us. So, it's challenging. I mean, they're working hard. It's like a workout.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not be one of your workouts or your workouts, but I mean.
What'd you say when he walked in? When he was walking up,
I knew I said something.
Man, he's jacked too, or he said something like that.
Yeah. I think it's cool.
I used to look like you once. It was a dream I had.
When you look at, it's the same thing. It can cross over into the gym side or any business side. I think when you're in a customer facing business, you said it so right, where we don't know what that person is going through that day. And it's funny because I always used to hear people say everybody wants to talk about their problems until they put them in the center, and you hear everybody else's, and then you want to pull yours back really quick and be like, oh, mine's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
But you never know. And I think if in the gym, when people come up to to work out with us, they are looking for that hour of that day to be a relief, to be a stress relief, and it's up to us to be able to provide that for them. When someone's pulling in here, I will tell you that if my wife hasn't eaten in 4 hours and we're driving through Chick-fil-A, it's probably pretty important that I get some food in her before she gets pretty angry. I would imagine that's most people when they drive through here. They're looking for this to be a highlight of that next 30 minutes of their day.
Our guests trust us, and that's a huge weight on our shoulders because we know they trust us. Are we serving them a safe product? Mm-hmm. And we are, and we have a lot of procedures in place to make sure that every single product that goes out our window is safe. They trust us that we're going to be as fast as we can and as kind and gentle to them as we can possibly be.
Now, I read a couple things, and maybe these things you can talk about, maybe you can't. If they're secrets, then we'll stay in the dark. But I read that it was a 7-year process and $50 million to come up with the chicken nugget, the chicken mini process, the machine the grill that made this. It was a 7-year iteration until Chick-fil-A perfected these nuggets. Is there any?
Well, I will say this, that every single product that you partake or eat at Chick-fil-A has gone through a very strict testing. We don't just come up with a product and say, hey, this is going to be great. I mean, we go through a lot of test markets. We go through a lot of, tasting analysis and ingredient analysis. So I will tell you that it could be 7 years, or it could be a little longer than that.
Man,
maybe not as long.
For the testing.
Yeah.
I love the idea that you could come up with a nugget in probably, I don't know, a fraction of that time. But to have the attention and detail and to have the obsessiveness to continue to refine it until it's perfect. Right. And I think that's when Charlie, that kid, she will eat her weight in nuggets. And every time, then you talk about the Chick-fil-A sauce. Holy cow. And then I go through the website, and it's not even a secret. The secret sauce is a perfect combination of honey barbecue and ranch. And I'm like, that's brilliant.
They just mixed all the sauces together. It's really good.
So it's just, you look at the menu, it's I don't want to say simple. I don't want to dumb it down to that, but it is a simple but so refined. Everything is so perfect. And I've always said that when we looked at the grind, I said, man, I just want a simple, small menu that doesn't have 16 flaps that I've got to figure out what to do. And now everybody knows. I didn't.
Well, have you ever been to a restaurant or a quick service restaurant and you're looking at their menu and then it switches? It's like one of those digital menus that keep switching. You're like, wow, they got a lot of things. And it takes time to order.
Yeah.
And, to put something on our menu, it takes a lot of R&D, research and development. To take something off takes even an act of Congress, really, because, we took off coleslaw and carrot raisin, and you haven't been eating Chick-fil-A that long, but, we had a lot of kickback, but we replaced it with some really good products, and they've really been successful.
I haven't looked at the menu at Chick-fil-A in forever. I just know what I want.
You just know what you want.
Yeah. There's like the 3 or 4 top things, and sometimes I got all 3 or 4 of them.
That's good.
Just eat them all.
Yeah.
There was another thing that I read, and it talked about the first 100, and it talked about every new location, the first 100 guests get Chick-fil-A for a year, 1 meal a week for the entire year. And people will camp out. Is there some truth to this?
There's
Roland?
100% truth to that. Even when we opened this place up 13 years ago, I think we had 100 folks in line. We allowed them to get in line 24 hours before we opened, and there was people waiting for 48 hours before that to get in line for the first 100. And then they have these huge events where they camp out. They bring their tents. I mean, I've been around the country. It's been like, snowing, and the folks are sitting there, in their tents. Hot. I mean, it's a cool event.
What a cool! I mean, you talk about building a die-hard base of people. That's how you do it. I mean, that's you give them.
Well, people go around the country and camp out at these grand openings. It's nuts. It's awesome. It's crazy.
Now, what can you tell us about this? Everybody that's in the know knows about this secret menu. What can you tell us about it? Is there an actual secret menu?
I don't know what you're talking about.
My kid told me this. Reagan.
I've seen it, but I've never attempted to order anything off of it.
And I said, Reagan, if you think there's a secret menu, then let's show me what you're made out of. Let's order something. Well, then she gets gun shy when the people come up to the car. She's like, no, let's not do it, Daddy. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board, but I'm going to get to the bottom of that. And that's when you can create a brand that has some of this mystique behind it. There's nothing, I can't think of any other restaurant. And I love the fact that you talk about.
Now, I will tell you, my team would encourage you not to order those secret menus.
So you kind of want to order it. It's way different than if we're doing a workout and you're like, hey, Philip, I got a secret. I'm like,
this is different.
I don't want to know what it is. This you want to know.
Yeah.
If we can do it, we'll do it for you.
Yeah.
But there's some things that just logistically we cannot do any longer because of how busy we are. And but we try to serve every guest, as well as we can and what they want.
I would imagine you have a very, very loyal following.
We do.
And I think that's we don't deal with that. We don't our competition, we never see it. It's miles away or different, geographically located in different places. But this would be an interesting concept because if you look to your left and right, you're talking about big players in this fast food game. And when you're the one that has the lines wrapped around the middle, you got a big target on your back. And part of me kind of likes that. I would like to be this, kind
this
of
one.
When you do it right and you see that.
Well, that's competition, and that keeps us on our A game.
Yep.
And, if we're just complacent, I mean, it's like I got a saying that it's not okay to be okay.
Yeah.
And, complacency, your business becomes stagnant. And we all know what happens when we're stagnant. We die.
Yep.
And we're an organization that is always trying to improve. Do we get it right all the time? We don't. But we strive for it.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that when Chick-Fil-A messes up, which is very rare, if you go through the drive-thru, they messed up in a good way. It's crazy.
Oh.
When they mess up, it's good. Like I order something, and when I look in the bag, I'm like, oh man, they messed
Philip,
up.
I want to give you a hug for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, they do. They're like, I'll order, say, the spicy chicken meal, fries, drink, whatever. You get up there, you're like, man, they screwed this up. They give me 2. Like they don't mess up in a bad way when they do mess up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Somewhere else you go, they would forget something.
So what's next, Roland? When we come out of this pandemic, hopefully sooner than later, and you're able to open up the inside of the store back, will you have that same somewhat of a learning curve to get back into the inside?
Yeah. So, our thought is we've discussed this with our leadership team, and it's like, okay, this is another opportunity to really wow these guests when they come in, because we're getting calls. If I had $1 for every time somebody asks, when am I open up my dining room? I'm like, I don't know yet, but when we do, we're going to do it right. Mm-hmm. And it's just, we call it second mile service. Is when those folks come in, our customers come in, our guests come in, we're just going to wow them with, that honor, dignity, and respect. And, we were talking earlier, and it's like, for 13 months, we've hired a lot of new employees and team members. They have never served a guest inside it's always been outside or at our window. So it's going to be unique. We got the mobile ordering, which is really awesome. I don't know if you guys have tried it or not, but it's super, super easy. And curbside, you can place your order and sit in your car and we'll bring it out to you.
Wow.
So we're thinking about some possibilities of doing some kind of mobile ordering inside. We'll see.
I think it'll be interesting to look at is there a percentage of your customers that will remain drive-through customers because they've just gotten used to it?
Sure.
This is probably a dumb question, but what is the easier route for you? It's easier for you to service someone driving through
Absolutely.
versus serving them inside.
So what we're doing right now, it wasn't easy 13 months ago.
Yeah.
11, 12, 13 months ago, it was a challenge.
Yep.
But we figured it out. When I say we figured it out, we're still figuring it out, but we figured out some of the major kinks.
Yeah.
And it takes less employees, obviously, to run the drive-through.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that we have a big clientele base that wants to come in and they want to, sit as a family.
Yeah.
And we recognize that, and we will open our dining rooms up when we're not sure yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, man, it's exciting to see, and exciting to see a business as big as Chick-fil-A, how they handled a pandemic and how they handled this pivot. And I think that's probably why they vet people the way that they do, because I think that there's a lot of folks that, if they don't have your mindset, maybe they don't manage this the way that they should, and they don't make the changes that they should to be able to adapt to this, and they don't survive. Because, like you said, Chick-fil-A has this amazing following, but it's still your fingerprint on it. It's still your store, and you make the decisions that, like this was a decision that you made. Nobody said, hey, here's how you're going to do it. You had to figure that out, and I think that's probably why they're so careful with their selections and why Philip will never have a chance to be a franchisee.
That's good. Appreciate it.
Is there another location for you in the future, or is this kind of?
I'm very happy with where we're at, and God's blessed us with 2 amazing Chick-fil-A restaurants, and
Actually, after talking to him, I think we're going to do Vermont and just kick you out of the mix. I think he's better at it.
That probably makes it makes sense to see that and say, you know what, I've been fortunate enough to get to where I am, and I'm happy with what I have. And I think sometimes people think that more is better, and I think that more creates a lot more stress.
It does.
And anxiety, and if you don't need that, then I guess you just have to realize that at some point, when is enough, and when can you be content with what you have?
Right,
and I think that's an important part of.
Now, if an opportunity presented itself, I would definitely jump on it and be more than happy to serve new guests in a new location, in addition to the ones I have. But if someone said, would you be willing to give up Afton Ridge or Concord Mills, I would say absolutely not.
Yeah. Absolutely
not. Like, would you give me one of your children if you got a new one? No.
Well, depends on the kid, right?
Which one
I guess it does depend on the kid. But.
My parents might have said, yeah.
They still might say,
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, Roland, like I said at the beginning, this has been a really cool conversation. I really appreciate you opening up your store for us and talking about some of the changes and the impacts. If people don't get something out of this, then they might as well stop listening, because you're not going to find a better case study than Chick-fil-A. So I really appreciate it.
Well, it truly has been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.